can never have too many tools. Shop DeWalt deals at Lowe's. Get a free Select DeWalt 20-volt max power tool when you buy a Select 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery kit. Plus, get a free additional DeWalt 20-volt max 8-amp-hour battery when you buy a DeWalt 10-inch 20-volt max dual-bevel compounded miter saw. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 6/24 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
From Hollywood, California, welcome to Reza Rifts with your host, Keith Reza.
Hi, Jodi Miller. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hi, Keith. Yeah, of course.
Usually I do it over Zoom, but Zoom just got so crazy expensive. So now I'm doing it over Riverside, which is so not expensive, but I don't know if it's my internet or whatever, because I cut out, so I apologize.
No, it's all good. You're here. You're here. We're doing it.
Well, thank you so much. This is going to sound like really crazy, but, you know, I've been doing comedy for a while, and you are one of the few comics where my path has not crossed. So I'm very excited to talk to you. Like,
yeah, I'm excited to be here.
I watched your special, Decades in the Making, and I thought it was great.
Thank you.
And you
Thank you.
filmed that at the Ice House, and I wanted to ask you because, like, it was after the pandemic, so usually, like, specials, they film it, like, 4 or 5 times, and then they edit it together. But since the pandemic, I think people just do once or twice. How many times did you film it?
I filmed it twice in one night, just we had an early show and a late show. Same, you know what I mean? Yeah. But, you know, to be honest with you, I probably... and I think a lot of comics say this too, but you do it just in case. I probably could have just used the first show. It's like magic, you know what I mean? It was a life trick. Second show is also great, and I'm glad that we had both. But I could have, if I needed to, have probably just used one. But I'm glad we obviously. It's like while you have the whole night, you might as well.
Yeah, might as well do too. But you feel more, you know, because like when I filmed my special, I just had it in one shot style, so it was either I did good or I did terrible, you know.
Right, I get it, totally get that. Yes.
But it sounds like your first set was great, and then your second set was like, I already got it, you know.
And my second set was great too, but with, like, you know, different vibe, different crowd because it's a little bit later, you know what I mean. But it was great. It was all great. Yeah, where did you film yours?
I filmed mine at the Rec Room, which is a comedy club in Huntington Beach that I kind of helped. Yeah. It's not there anymore. It's all now apartments. Yeah. But I liked it because, like, it was so intimate. Like, I like the 100 seaters.
Well, that's why I did the Ice House. I wanted more of an intimate club feeling. There were definitely aspects of it I wish I could have changed, and, you know, hindsight is 20/20, and there were definitely some things that I was not happy about, but the Ice House not being one of them. I love that club. If I did it again, I would do it a little bit different, but I did like that intimate club feel, since the majority of us start there, and they're doing it more now. There's, like, you know, a friend of mine did it at the Upstairs Club, which is like a small little venue now that's like very intimate, but like rockin', and you know, it came out great. So, you know, there's something to be said of doing like a theater show, and then there's something to be said about doing, you know, a small intimate or just a comedy club vibe, you know. And
so that was a question I wanted to ask you, because on specials, you know, usually they want to do it at theaters and stuff, but I like the specials where it's intimate, because like one of my good friends is Jamie Kennedy, and most of his specials are intimate, you know, type of things. And I just find that more exciting and more, you know what I mean? It gives the...
I do too. I think a lot of people still look at that theater as like it's just so, you know, glamorous. I loved that. That's the thing that I wanted to take. I wanted to take the look of a theater with the background and everything and implement it at a comedy club, and specifically the Ice House, because they have so much great technology now that they redid it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, which, again, it's all good. Yeah. It was, you know, off of the heels of the pandemic, so there was a lot going on, and, you know... my daughter was, 2.5 at the time. It was a lot. There was a lot of stuff that if I could done a little bit differently, I would have. Having said that, I'm happy with my material.
It was great. Yeah.
And I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And you know how hard it is as a comic to watch another comic special because you're like,
It is, yes, it is very. Yes.
You're like, why couldn't I think of this bit? Or why couldn't I, you know what I mean? It's just, that's why I don't like going to.
It's a lot, it is a lot. For me, it's more because I produced so many live shows, and, I've just seen so much comedy in my 30 years of performing that, I'll definitely watch a Friends special for sure. But it's hard for me to, only because I'm so stand-up, I'm like tapped out usually at the end of the day. I had a hard time watching my own special.
I can't watch my stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to do that sometimes. But I love comedy. It's still such a huge, even though I'm producing so much now and not performing as much as I used to, I'm still so enmeshed in the comedy world with Comics Unleashed and Funny You Should Ask that it doesn't feel like I'm just not performing as much as I used to, but I'm still I still feel just as much as a part of the community.
Oh no, for sure. Because like when you're like, because like I write scripts sometimes, and like, so like when I'm in a writing mode, I don't do a lot of stand up, but I never felt I'm not a stand up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
of course. I think, the only time I felt that way was during the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
I lost my sense of identity, as I think a lot of people did. A lot of people suffered with that because everything you did, you were no longer doing. So for the most part, for us in our industry. So at that time, I wasn't a mom. I wasn't a wife. I was just a single person living in a house. I wasn't a stand-up. I wasn't a writer because our show went on hiatus. I wasn't performing. So like, what was I doing? Like you had that, crisis of like, oh my God, what's going on? Who am I?
Yeah.
And then you start doing Zoom shows, which actually made you feel
for sure. Yes. Oh.
Yeah. Then you're like, oh God, this is awful. What am I doing? I should just get into real estate. I did my real estate license. This is it. This is where I transitioned into real estate. But then everything came back online, and
no, I totally agree with you, because like when the Zoom shows started, like Ben Glebe had Nowhere Comedy Club, and I love Ben Glebe. I'm not shitting on him at all. But I remember when the thing came out, I'm like, maybe I want to do this Nowhere Comedy Club thing,
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, so.
It's so, I did parking lot shows. I did all of that stuff where people in their car.
And they honked. Oh my God.
Clappers. And they're beeping, and your timing's different. It's so, and then I got on Zoom, everything's delayed, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? It was like nuts. It was a crazy, crazy time in our history. We experienced it. My daughter will never know what that's like, even though she was born during the pandemic. But it's crazy to think that we lived through that, because it was such a, and we're all back to like normal.
I know, yeah.
Like, don't talk about it. Don't mention the C word. We're living. We're just doing it. But like, it fucked a lot of people up.
The car show, I did a car show with Bob Saget, and because Saget usually played the guitar in his act and stuff, so like we had to connect the guitar and stuff, and then we're getting honks, and it was just messing up Saget's rhythm. And
it's everything did. I eventually had a suggestion to have their windows down, have people either out, so we could hear some sort of laughter, because I was like, am I holding for this? I feel like I'm just performing in a fucking open field.
It made you feel worse as a comic, And then,
don't get me wrong, I did have some good shows, and then and Jamie was on this one, Jamie Kennedy. I just bought my house before this, so I'm really grateful for that. But then again, I was also like just in a house alone with a cat. But I decided that because I have a really big backyard, at that time, it was still like 6 feet. Everybody's 6 feet apart. But I was like, I can easily fit like 30 to 35 people back here if we make them 6 feet apart. So I had a friend come over, and I did an outside show because I have this like gazebo and a pool. And 35 people showed up immediately. I had to turn people away. We had 6 comics, Jamie Kennedy being one of them. I had 6 microphones. Everybody had their own.
Oh, nice.
But you did your first. It was on a stage outside. It was magic. It was magic because everyone was dying for any kind of entertainment and any kind of interaction with other human beings. So that was pretty magical. And I feel like that was kind of the start to people being like, I'd rather get sick and laugh than sit at home for one more day and do a Zoom happy hour. I'm going to blow my brains out.
Yeah. One more thought on this before you move on, but I think like as much as the pandemic was terrible and stuff, I think that in a way it kind of showed the world that comedy will never die, because
never die. We'll always have
because like even if there's we're how the Zoom shows were tough or whatever, we still made a way to try and do something. You know what I mean?
We did, because you can't keep us doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the world needs humor, it needs comedy, it needs music, it needs the arts, it needs all of that stuff. And I think it helped a lot of people through a really dark time, a lot of darkness there, and the comedy of it all sort of gave us permission to laugh at the way the world was. It just was, there were so many aspects of it that I think set people over the edge. Yeah. For me, I joke about, like, for people in their 20s, I mean, it was hard, but it was like, they were just like, I'll just move at home and just like lose some weight and be hotter when I get out. But like, I can't afford, anyone over 35 could not afford to lose a year of their life.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, it was, oh my God, I was like watching myself age in real time, but like no one was, it was very bizarre. It was a crazy time.
Hey guys, I found the only gift that Dad wants this Father's Day. Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships the most iconic foods from the best restaurants across the country straight to his door for free. Let him relax and enjoy award-winning barbecue from Texas, epic deep dish pizza from Chicago, or colossal pastrami sandwiches from New York. Make Dad feel like an absolute legend this Father's Day and go to goldbelly.com to get 20% off your first order with promo code DAD. That's goldbelly.com, code DAD.
That I'm so glad that we are no longer.
Oh, for sure. But I figured that's why adult entertainers like strippers hate comedians, because we made a way to try and do something and then they couldn't do anything.
Well, when did OnlyFans? I mean,
that's true. That's true.
They made a way. They transitioned
to porn stars, amateur porn stars.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Speaking of OnlyFans, I saw this on my algorithm, and I find it very weird. But actress Shannon Elizabeth just got divorced, and she's now going to OnlyFans, and I feel bad for her husband because now she's just going to release all the sex videos of them. You know what I mean?
Is she releasing?
I don't know if she's gonna do that, but I'm just like saying, like, that would be like, I would be like, if I was the husband, I'd be like, what the hell?
I mean, here's the thing. I'm actually shocked that she didn't go to OnlyFans before.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And honestly, there's a woman on OnlyFans who's made, I think, more money than some professional athletes. We're gonna look her up. OnlyFans.
Yeah, there's
highest grosser. I mean, it's ridiculous. Oh yeah. Was it Black China is cited as making, she makes $20 million per month.
Jesus Christ.
Sophie Rain is reportedly earned over $43 million in her first year.
Oh my God.
So let's, like, at the end of the day, go for it. I mean, and there's a lot of people on OnlyFans that are not doing what I'm sure a lot of these women are doing. Right. But it doesn't matter. Like, Iggy Azalea's on it. I mean, there's just a lot of, like, celebrities on it. And I know for a while, I don't know if they still have it, because Whitney Cummings did either her special on there or a roast on OnlyFans. I think it was her special, because they were trying to go to only comedy. They were trying to transition over to that, which, I think is also still a great idea. But I mean, you look at that and you're like, you can't hate on any of these people that are making $43 million in a year. I would
for
be
sure.
Like, okay, yeah, I would do it for a year and then be like, bye-bye.
Yeah.
And then just pick up and move somewhere else and just like live out my life with my 43.
And then just be like, I've accomplished the dream of comedy and acting, right?
Exactly. I mean, I would sell pictures of my feet if I could make that much money. I'll tell you what.
I do remember when Whitney Cummings went on OnlyFans, because like Whitney Cummings is one of my favorite comics, and she's another comic whose paths I've never crossed. So my best friend,
well, she was telling us about that she was going on there for her special when she was doing it.
Yeah. So my best friend was Norm McDonald, and when I told Norm, I was like, "Hey, I want to get Whitney on my podcast. Do you know her?" And he worked with her on Roseanne, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know her enough to like ask a favor like that."
Right.
So then he's like, "You should subscribe to her OnlyFans and send her a DM." I did, and I felt like the biggest pervert because like I have no idea what's going on here, you know what I mean? But she never responded, but I was just like, I just thought that was
That's
yeah, so but because like, you know, that's how this world will now change, you know what I mean, where the non-pervert people are saying, hey, will you do so, and you're like, huh, wait, what?
Yeah, I know. You're like, wait a minute, are you not like saying something perverted? You're actually asking me a real question. But yeah, you know what you're
I wanted to ask you because you're also the author of the WTF books. I wanted to ask you, like, how long, you know, you have 5 or 6 of these books. How long does it take you to write one of these books? Like, because writing a book is really hard.
I wrote them a long time ago with a co-author, Greg Berman, who's very, very funny. So we don't write them now, but we wrote them then, even before Mark Waron's WTF podcast came out. It was just a fun comedy, like coffee table book, where you basically think of these scenarios and how you get out of them, depending, you know, WTF College, WTF America, WTF Women. And then I did OMG Guys solo, and those are super fun to write. And we would have a deadline, so they didn't take that long because they were such a short form. Like, here's a scenario and here's some funny, like, ways to get out of this scenario.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a great time to like learn how to write remotely, which is funny because it was, you know, over 15 years ago, and most people weren't writing remotely. I guess if you were writing a book, you were, but for any other, you know, job, even when I wrote on Co-Ed Confidential, which was on Cinema, or, you know, before they merged, owned by HBO, which is basically soft porn. Speaking of
my favorite show when I was 5.
I'm seriously. I mean, that was actually one of my favorite shows to write for. I mean, it's geared towards 5-year-olds, our demographic. No, but it was actually a really fun show to write on, and looking back at the scripts, there was some great writing. Now, what happened between the writing and the acting of it all is completely different. But I just remember, you know, because it's owned by HBO, so we got our notes from them. We worked remotely, which was great. It was 3 of us, and we would just split up the season. I would write episode 1 and 6, and we were just, you know, and then we do rewrites. You know, we would pass it off to each other, so we all had our hands in it, literally. But I remember the biggest note after our first round of scripts for season 1 was, you need to have 4 sex scenes per episode in a half-an-hour show. 4 sex scenes, not just like a gratuitous blowjob or a hand job, full-on sex scenes. So I remember being like in the middle of like something, you know, that seemed like a serious subject matter, like, dude, we need to have a serious talk about your relationship, but first let's fuck. Like, I always had to transition into like, they have to fuck now. Like, I know he's getting evicted from his apartment, but there needs to be.
There's nothing like a good fucking
shower scene with her. Yes, like I need that to have sex. So somebody has to walk in that room and initiate sex. But other than that, it's funny too, because at that time when I was writing that, I was also ghostwriting and writing, like doing punch up for scripts, and I was working on like a slasher flick, and I found it much harder to kill off people than I did to like write them out.
Really?
Some people would be like, and I came up with some cool creative ways for these like 20-something-year-olds to die, but it really did not didn't feel great writing that, even though I could write it. And I was like, oh, this is really perfect. This would be great. I felt more uncomfortable doing that than I did having like a threesome scene. I was like, oh, I'm into this.
Do you think maybe that's because of your comic mind, where like, I'm not saying like, you know, your jokes relate to this,
right? But
like comics kind of move towards, like romance or sex as humor, where they don't really have violence.
Really go towards violence. I mean, good point for sure. Yeah. But I think I'm also, you know, a white woman that loves serial killer and in documentaries and true crime. So I should be like so into it. Normally if I hear like dismemberment in like a promo on Netflix, like, and then they found like a dismembered body, or I was like, ooh, I'm in. So normally I gravitate towards that, but writing about it is different than like watching it. And now that I'm a mom, I actually have a hard time watching certain like true crime stuff, which is unfortunate because that used to be my jam.
Yeah.
And now, you know, kids ruin everything.
I can't wait to have kids.
Get ready.
Yeah.
Make a list of the shit they
Oh my God. But no, I find that so funny because like what if like serial killers, like after they did their crime or whatever, they did stand-up comedy.
like an OnlyFans?
No, they did stand-up comedy.
They did stand-up.
And they're talking about their and
people are laughing and they're like, I just killed a guy before this set. I'm killing here.
Exactly.
I'm killed out there. And people are like, woo! I mean, write it down, Keith. What are you doing?
I don't know, but it just kind of reminds me of like like everyone knows about Bill Cosby and stuff, but like there was a comic named Vince Champ who he was like a totally clean comic too, and he would go on the road and he would like take advantage of ladies and stuff, and they would never never know who it is because he was like always in a different city, and like that was kind of kind of weird.
It's funny that you brought up Bob Saget specifically because I didn't know him well, but I saw him perform many, many times. And it's interesting. It's always the clean comics that have, and this isn't like a new discovery, but it's always the clean comics that have, a lot of, that you're not surprised when you hear the fucked up shit they do.
Yeah.
The comics that are dirty on stage, like Saget, they have nothing to hide. It's all out there. They're not like doing the shit that when I hear a clean comic, I'm like, oh, what are they trying to hide? What's going on there? You know what I mean? Because I definitely know a couple other clean comics that are, kind of fucking assholes.
Oh, for sure.
That have done some questionable things off stage that you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting how the comics that are really super dirty and have no filter. Their closets, they have no skeleton. They're just like, this is everything. All my cards.
Take it or leave it, So.
Hey guys, I found the only gift that Dad wants this Father's Day. Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships the most iconic foods from the best restaurants across the country straight to his door for free. Let him relax and enjoy award-winning barbecue from Texas, epic deep dish pizza from Chicago, or colossal pastrami sandwiches from New York. Make Dad feel like an absolute legend this Father's Day and go to goldbelly.com to get 20% off your first order with promo code DAD. That's goldbelly.com, code DAD.
But no, it's so funny because like podcasting too, like I think I'm going to go hypocritical on this, but I feel every comedian who has a podcast, it makes them a stronger podcast. However, I feel there's also too many podcasts.
It's a lot of podcasts. It's a lot of podcasts. I mean, I have a podcast and I'm just, I'm not doing new episodes right now because I'm in production, but there's a lot of podcasts. And like, look, I love podcasts, but there's just too many, you know what I mean? For me to like listen to all of them.
Yeah. But in your mind though, like when you do it, like it's also a form of writing that you don't really realize.
Yes.
So that's why I like it. You know what I mean? Yep. So.
I do too.
The only thing is like when people like when they talk about like comedy and stuff and like they're like, "Ooh, I was so bullied and stuff growing up and I would never do that." And then these two comics and you're like, "These mofos bully me." Like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of it's like
exactly
like freedom of speech I feel is great, but I feel like when comics kind of overdo it to try and make them funnier or more sympathetic, I feel like you're killing your crowd.
I agree. How did you get into comedy?
Oh, so I have Asperger's syndrome and I was very nonverbal and I always got like picked on and stuff. So I thought maybe it was because I'm funny. So I went to a mom and pop coffee shop and I had like $20 best joke of the night gets $20. And for a 15-year-old kid, $20 is like $1,000.
It's a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
So I did it. I won the $20. I never won it again. I've never, and then, so then I went to more speech therapy and stuff, and then like I just I kind of stalked Norm Macdonald until we became good friends, and then he took me on the road with him, and I was on the road with him for 9 years, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't good until maybe the final 2 years being on the road with him. You know what I mean? So like that and maybe that's just how my brain like developed, because I still go to speech therapy and stuff. So like, it's like I know how to write funny and stuff, but sometimes I don't say what's like, it takes me a while. And then when Norm died, Saget took me on the road, you know, and then, you know, unfortunately Saget. So like I got it.
Sounds like it's you.
Yeah, that
sounds like you're killing off these like legends of comedy.
I know, it sucks.
That's what I.
Yeah.
Okay, Keith, I'm hearing that you're killing your like.
It's depressing.
mentors in your life.
I know, it's depressing. That's why I'm not going to ask to open up for you, because I love you, Joe.
I need to live. I have a daughter. Okay.
But so that's how I got into it. And like, unfortunately, when you tour with someone, I mean, this is good, but it's also bad. But when you tour with someone, you skip all the open mics and you skip the passing by the bookers, because the headliner, you know, like Norm said several times, though, Keith's not doing the show, I don't need to do this gig. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I got forced on gigs, and it helped me, but it didn't help me learn the business. Like, I can't get Rita from the Improv or Jamie from the Laugh Factory to even take a look at me. You know what I mean?
Right. Which is unfortunate, because, you know, if you're funny, you're funny. It doesn't matter. I always say it doesn't matter how you get somewhere. It's what you do when you get there. So while I think, you know, open mics definitely serve a purpose, there's lots of different ways to get to where you are, and you don't need that. I mean, those are definitely like, you know, like the growing pains of the business and having your battle scars and you know, having all of that. I didn't do that many open mics. I really didn't as a comic. I did a lot of bringer shows, which is sort of the equivalent of it, except you actually have an audience. And then I sort of fast-tracked that by producing my own show, which automatically guarantees you stage time, and then you get to trade spots with other people. And I think it's like, it makes me kind of sad that they wouldn't even take a look at you, because, again, you're touring with two great comics. There has to be something funny about you. They wouldn't take somebody on the road who was awful. Yeah. And you've also learned a lot. Also, being on the road is its own type of education.
That's where you learn the most.
A lot of stuff. That's where you learn the most. Not from the open mics where you're performing for other comics. You learn it from the road. You learn that different crowds react to different things. You learn how to pivot depending on the crowd. I think it's invaluable for that. And then there are some comics that like live on the road, and that's it. And that there's pros and cons to both, by the way, because I see a lot of comics come off of the road, and then they have a harder time performing if they come back to LA or come back to New York, because I think road, like when you're on the road, those crowds are easier crowds because they're outside of your major cities, especially Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles has the toughest crowds because so many people are in the industry. So you get it's just like a different attitude when people go out to see comedy here compared to New York, where I started, or compared to any other, you know, place in the country. Yeah. People are there to really laugh. So I think you can get away with a lot with jokes that don't necessarily crush in maybe the major cities, but like in Ohio would totally slam. So I think it's important to have a balance of both, is what I would say.
And I have a huge theory about why I feel the road is easier than, like, you know, like I would say LA, New York, and Austin are probably the hardest cities for me.
Right.
But I would say the road, like I kill in Dallas and San Antonio, which is only like 2 hours away from, but it's different because like these are the main cities where they could see so much comedy any day of the week. Uh-huh. When you go on the road, it's like, oh, okay. Oh, Jodi Miller, I saw her on TV. She's only gonna go and be here for 1 week, and she might not come back again. So let's get the tickets. You know what I mean? So like you're already the celebrity star there, so you got that immediately. Where in LA, they're like, I could probably see Jodi next week. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I mean, like, I'm on a show Friday night with Eliza Schlesinger, Jeff Ross. I mean, like, when you're at the Comedy Store, you're seeing these headliners all together at once. So you're right. They're seeing so many great comics, and on the road, they're not getting as many. But also, you know, it's people that live in LA, Austin, New York, especially LA, though, there's just an air of like, we can do that. We're also on the entertainment. It's just a bizarre, I can't even really describe it, but once you also master it in LA, then yeah, especially when you go on the road, you're like, oh wow,
Yeah.
this is so easy. Having said that, though, it's like then you have comics that do cruise ships, which is its own different
beast.
Like, I wouldn't do a cruise ship for a lot of the reasons that that they're sort of like. I would just say there's so many rules and regulations to most cruises, unless you're doing like a gay cruise, which apparently are super fun. But a lot of them are like, no politics, no religion, no swearing, no this, no that, no overly sexual stuff. Sometimes they have a kids show. And there are some comics that are completely built for that. And I like take my hat off and it's like amazing. It's just not
the style. Yeah.
It's just not me. I also don't want to be like on a boat performing for basically the same crowd every single night.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nightmare.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But, but a lot of comics love it and they make a good living. So, that's amazing.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, and you might not remember this, but I feel like at a time when I experienced this, I kind of want to like try and give it back. But when you got your first weekend as a headliner, like the 5 shows, it's your weekend. How like did it, like how was your anxiety on that? Like were you stressed about ticket sales, or were like how'd your mind like go like how'd you do that? You know what I mean? Like yeah. I definitely. I think. By the way, it doesn't matter what level you're at. All comics, unless the shows are already sold out before you get there. Every comic is thinking that, because whether you have a door deal or you're getting a flat fee, but they're all relying on you, you're constantly looking at the sales. I know comics at like the top level that are still like, what are the sales? Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you just want to make sure that you're not letting the club down. You want to make sure that there are a lot of people in this that's going to have a great time. So you just worrying about that. And then you get to a point where you're just kind of like, it is what it is. I'll promote, they'll promote. That's their job to also promote. And whoever comes out will make sure they have the best show that they've ever had. Like, there's only so much you can do. Thankfully, now with social media, social media is such a good and bad thing, as we all know, but specifically for comedy, because I see a lot of comics that are getting asked to headline because they have a lot of followers and they're probably not ready to headline. They don't have the strongest material to headline, but the clubs are looking at them like, well, they're going to fill the room because they've got, a few 100,000 followers or 1 million followers, so they can easily fill that room. And the truth is they probably can. Yeah. But is that show going to be good? Do they have really the strongest 45 minutes worth of material? Or is it just like 20 minutes and them doing crowd work or them trying to fill up? I mean, it's like the good and the bad thing. A lot of really talented comics get passed over for comics that have a lot of following. And that's unfortunate. Having said that, again, there's enough for everyone. I truly believe that. And people, they get really upset about, comparing and despairing themselves to other comics, what they're doing, where they're playing. It's just a waste of time.
It's not going to change anything.
It's not going to change anything. If you're being authentic to yourself and you're talking about the stuff that, that is true to you, you're being an authentic comic, and your material is based on your life or your observations, then you don't have the competition. Just stay in your lane, do what you're doing, and don't worry about anybody else. There is enough for everyone. There's enough comedy clubs for everyone. There's enough fame for everyone. People we get really caught up in that compare and despair game. I'm definitely very good at that. But I remind myself, like, there's enough. I'm doing great. Keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean...
All right, listen up. The only gift that any dad wants on Father's Day is Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships the most iconic foods from the best restaurants across the country straight to his door for free. Let him kick back and chow down on award-winning barbecue from Texas, epic deep dish pizza from Chicago, or colossal pastrami sandwiches from New York. Make Dad feel like an absolute legend this Father's Day and go to goldbelly.com to get 20% off your first order with promo code DAD. That's 20% off at goldbelly.com, code DAD.
I run a room in Huntington Beach, and I mean, it's not a bringer. I just do door deals and I promote the best, right. And I hope and it is what it is, you know what I mean? but like I run it because like it's so hard for me to find constant work, and I just want to do comedy. You know what I mean? So it's like,
that's why I always tell people to run rooms. It's actually, because I teach comedy too, when we're on hiatus, usually when we're not in production, and I still coach comics when I can, like one-on-one sessions. But I always tell comics, even comics that are just starting out, I'm like, run a room. It's actually incredibly easy. Finding a space is the hardest part, but you can usually find a space. A lot of bars let you do it on their off nights or before the night gets like busy. Like Bar Lubitsch has been doing comedy for years. They do it in the back room before like 10. So they'll do an early show and then it turns like into a regular bar club. But just find a space, bring a partner. I did the C Word, which is the longest running female produced show at the Comedy Store. And I started it with Eliza. And right after before she won Last Comic Standing, before she even won that. And we did that so that we had a dedicated show every week that we could do our material and give our friends spots and introduce people, introduce the Comedy Store to a new crop of comics that were starting out, a safe place upstairs in the belly room. It's easy to start a room and it's easy to find comics. Is it easy to fill the room? No. But that's why you book. Like for us, we would do like the bringer ringer policy. So we'd book like maybe 5 comics that were newer, that were eager to help fill the room. And we weren't like, if you don't bring these amount of people, you're not.
Oh, that's the worst.
Oh, that's the worst. God. That is the worst. I totally agree with you. Yeah. But we would say, hey, help fill the room. And they would, because it was at the Comedy Store. And then we would have 3 or 4 like ringers that were like seasoned pros that people were like, wow. And those shows though, the newcomers, everybody was always great. We always had great shows. They were really good shows.
Yeah. My first bringer show, he's probably not going to remember this, but Amir K, who's great. But when he first started, he was like the door guy at the right? So this was like 2005, 2006 or something. And I didn't know it was a bringer show. And the at the time was on Lancashire, which like there's all these.
It still is. They just moved it.
Yeah. But it was a different spot than what it is now.
Yes.
It was more Hookerville, Lancashire. You know what I mean? And
I know.
And he was like, "Oh, you gotta bring 5 people, or you can't go on stage." And they never told me that. So I went to the ATM and I took like $300, and my mom gave me her ATM card, because so I took out $300 and I just gave these ladies money. I was like, "Hey, will you just say you're here to see me?" You know what I mean? So I don't know if they bought the 2 drinks or whatever, but I got to do my 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So like I was.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was the day where I was like, I'm never going to do another bringer show in my life because it's gonna get me grounded.
It's definitely nerve wracking for sure. I mean, yeah, you could go broke just for your show. If you're paying people to come. That's nerve wracking for sure when you have shows and you have to like fill the room. It's like it's tough. But when you're running the room though, there's no shortage of newer comics that will definitely get their friends to come out, especially if it's a good show. If there are good comics on the show too, that's what I mean. Have a couple comics that have that have recognizable names, and people will come see it. People love to see comedy.
Well, here's the thing: is like when you're a comedian versus a booker. Like I feel the best bookers are the ones who do comedy in a way because they kind of know comedy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so like I always say, like when I book, I want to book someone who I would pay to go see. Right. And I feel like that's something a lot of people don't understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
So when you coach comics, like have you ever coached a comic where like, years later they're more successful and you're like, I helped that comic? Like, have you ever had that satisfaction or do they?
Yeah, totally. I have lots of comics that are now regulars at clubs. I coach people now that are, that are performing everywhere. I mean, that are on the road, that have great representation, that are doing television, I work with all levels of comics, from like really brand new to seasoned pros. It's helpful sometimes. Comics, as you know, we can sometimes hit a block and we want to write new material, and it's good to have, especially another comic, to bounce ideas off of. because sometimes I'll think of something on fresh ears that they didn't think of. I mean, I do that too with my friends. I'll just be like, hey, listen to this material. Tell me what I'm missing. What am I doing? You know what I mean? Because, but then, other people just don't have people like that in their lives. So they pay. It's easier to pay somebody. I mean, like the big greats, when they're getting ready for their specials or any roast, they have a team of writers, So it's kind of the same way. If somebody comes to me and they're like, I'm going to get ready for my special, and like, I think I'm missing about like 10 minutes of strong material, we'll sit down and look at everything, and then we'll just start brainstorming and coming up with it, and and yeah.
So as a teacher, do you think like, I mean, I know you gotta kind of like walk a fine line on your answer here, but do you think like you could teach someone to be funny, or do you think you could teach someone tricks to be funnier? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, totally. I mean, I get that question a lot. Can you teach someone to be funny? I mean, here's the reality. Do I coach people that I'm like, oh, this person has a natural talent? Yes. Do I coach people that I'm like, oh, this person's going to have a harder time? Of course. Do I think I can get them material that's going to do well on stage? 100%. Now, are they going to absorb it and start thinking like a comic on their own to continue writing that on their own? I mean, I don't know. I've seen so many comics that I've worked with a lot of people that are really amazing writers, but they just, when they're on stage, it just doesn't work because they don't have the stage presence. They're really not built to be a performer. And a lot of them do transition into the writing world, which is also fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to come into stand-up and be like, I've got to be a performer. That's the only thing. You know what I mean? Some people do, but a lot of people either take my class or work with me because they want to improve their writing skills. And getting up is just a way for them to sort of take control of their career, because everything in this industry is like audition, wait for this, submit a script, see if you get into this. But with stand-up, you can really decide how much or how little you're going to get up. It's the one thing you can really like take control over. So a lot of people, even though they're not maybe built to be a stand-up, maybe they're built to be a writer, you know what I mean? And this is a great way for them to figure it out. I can say this honestly, I have taught class, like 10 people per class. So I've literally gotten so many people on stage that would never even think of getting on stage. And I don't think I've ever had one person that died up there.
Yeah.
Just not like, because their material, I would make sure we would work on it together, one-on-one, and then they get to try it out in the class on joke structure, on like, and it's all based on their thoughts and ideas and stories. Because I believe everybody has funny things that happen in them.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody. Everybody.
No, that's true. I mean, they say that comedy is subjective, and I don't necessarily know if I believe that. I believe humor is subjective, and they're two different things. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree with you. Yes, some people have a way better sense of humor. Some people get things faster than other people. Some people are just more literal. Some people are really serious. Some people find things funny, but they're not completely like emoting, and you don't know. It's a spectrum of stuff. And you brought up the whole being nonverbal for a long time. I mean, comedy has been used, which I love, and I have been able to experience this. Comedy's been used therapeutically for so many years in lots of different situations. I work with people that have had PTSD. I've worked with young kids using comedy to like work through difficult situations. I don't think people realize it. I mean, there's the saying that comedy is cheaper than therapy, and then there's my favorite saying, which I say all the time, is that you can spend 10 years on the couch or 10 minutes on stage.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Taking things like, I'm sure had to deal with a lot of stuff, growing up with Asperger's and being nonverbal, and you turn to comedy, which is amazingly brave and awesome, to sort of work through it. And I've worked, I think one of the best, it wasn't even a job because I didn't get paid, one of the best gigs I would say that I had, or experiences, was I was asked to teach stand-up at a middle school.
Oh, nice.
Very underprivileged. Yes, in an underprivileged middle school. I've also done it in high school too, but that was slightly different. But I realized middle school is such an important age because these kids were all right at that age where they started to feel subconscious about what they would consider to be their, shortcomings.
Yeah.
They were starting to be body conscious. People were starting to bully a little bit. Cliques were really forming, and you could see people were going into puberty, and you could see girls being uncomfortable about their body or guys being self-conscious about their height. And you could see it. It's happening in middle school. And I was able to get them to talk about it, not just that or anything else in their life, and to use humor as a way of coping with certain things. And I remember this one kid, just was like a really short kid, and it really bothered him, and I'm sure he started to get bullied. And we wrote so many jokes about it, and at the end he got up on stage and he told these jokes. I'm like, you tell these jokes, you're taking the power away. Yeah. You're taking the power back, and you're the one telling the jokes. So if somebody makes a joke about you being short, like, you can be like, that's all you have. And then you can rattle off all the ones that you have. And he got on stage and he started telling these jokes as a 13-year-old. And he was definitely very nervous. So I think he only got like 3 out. I was like beaming with pride. All of them did not. Not all of them decided to get on stage because some of them were really nervous. But the fact that they all got up in class and talked about certain things in their lives, and just public speaking alone, I was already just so proud of them because it's such a hard thing, and it will serve them through the rest of their life. But to watch this kid in particular come off, and he hugged me, and I just was like, I'm holding back tears because I could tell it made him, 6 feet tall. He just felt like, I can go into high school now and I feel so much. It was just such a great experience, and it really reaffirmed how therapeutic comedy is for everyone. Yeah. Like when my mom died, when my daughter was born, when my brother passed away, when people go through a divorce, when they deal with, addiction or, a rough childhood, they talk about it on stage. They're working through it. They're using humor to work through it. And it's amazing to see. And I will always, believe in the power of comedy.
All right, listen up. The only gift that any dad wants on Father's Day is Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships the most iconic foods from the best restaurants across the country straight to his door for free. Let him kick back and chow down on award-winning barbecue from Texas, epic deep dish pizza from Chicago, or colossal pastrami sandwiches from New York. Make dad feel like an absolute legend this Father's Day and go to goldbelly.com to get 20% off your first order with promo code DAD. That's 20% off at goldbelly.com, code DAD.
Yeah, when Norm died on September 14th, 2021, and that was the worst day of my life. And
sure.
And that day I just went on stage, like, and it was very weird because it's career changing, but I was like, okay, I could now stop doing what I love because I lost the person that I love the most, or I could just keep going on. And I know like Norm still lives in me. So like I feel like comedy is one of those things where like it brings out, I'm not saying like the whole relationship was all roses and candy. There's so many thorns in it, but it's one of those things where like you just got to keep doing it because it really does make your relationship stronger with the person you lost.
Of course it does. You keep them alive in your mind. You're talking about, like, when I coach a comic, I always tell them, like, there's no subject that's off the table.
Yeah.
Comics get really scared about talking about dark things, specifically death. And I have to remind them that everybody dies, and people in the audience, almost all of them, if not all of them, have lost someone or will lose someone or is going through something similar to what you're going through. So if you're talking about a divorce or a breakup or having cancer or an addiction or being on the spectrum or doing X, Y, and Z, there's someone in the audience that can relate to you, and you are their voice. You are talking about it. So you're not only like working through your own stuff, you're helping other people to be like, oh, I'm not alone in this. You know what I mean? So when my mom died, I did a cancer benefit very shortly after, she died of cancer, and it was very sudden, but it was very like cathartic, and it was, I was still in so much pain. But when I was on stage, I wasn't on pain because you're obviously trying to make people.
Yeah.
I was connecting with her. And I still talk about, like, I have jokes about her, and sometimes the audience gets uncomfortable, and I'm like, not laughing is not going to bring him back. Like, you can laugh. You have to be able to laugh at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that, like, that release. You have to be able to. And the people that we lost would want us to. You know what I mean? They wouldn't want us to stop our lives and stop doing what we love to do. And using comedy as a way to talk about really serious subject matter. People pay attention and they listen to it. You know what I mean? So that's why I mean, again, I've coached people that are not just comics, just other public speakers, people that are in other professions that have to give a speech. I've helped write a lot of best man and maid of honor speeches. People
Really?
are so terrified to like talk in public because humor is always just the common, you know what I mean? It's like, it brings everyone together. It's, people just love to laugh, and when it's a great icebreaker. So when you even like I worked with this doctor who had to give like a lecture, and he was like, people get very bored when I start talking about this. I want to incorporate a little bit of humor. I'm like, yes, people will pay more attention if humor is attached to whatever you're talking about. They just would. It is proven.
Oh my God.
So like, you know what I mean? To come out with a great little joke, people are engaged, then go into what you're talking about, maybe hit them with another joke, go back into what you're talking about. All of those things are like, I think, very useful skills to have, no matter what profession you're in. People seem to trust people more that have a sense of humor and make light of certain situations. So yeah, just an all-around amazing thing.
It's so funny you said that because, Jodi, I'm not lying to you. I had a dream like 3 or 4 nights ago that I got married and I had to write my speech, like, and I didn't know what to say, you know what I mean? So I was just like, oh, Ashley, I love you very much. Thank you for letting me have anal intercourse with you. You know what I mean?
Which is
Very funny, but you know what I mean? That would be the best speech ever, but then you'd lose a wife like that.
Probably would. I mean, Ashley knew that was
Jodi, I want to respect your time, but I have 3 more questions for you. They're kind of fast. Can I ask these? Okay. So we were talking about mentors in comedy and how you do mentor your students and stuff. I wanted to ask you, did you ever have a mentor while you were in like before you became where you are now, like when you first started, who was someone who helped you?
I mean, there's a lot of people along the way that have helped me for sure. Bobby Lee, I went on the road with him. I featured for him for many years, and he's incredibly supportive and always has been. There have definitely been people that have done that. To me, I was kind of a reluctant stand-up, so I didn't like dive into it like, and now I need a mentor, and now I'm going to learn from this person. I was somebody who was an actor who took stand-up to further my acting career when I was in my early 20s and starting in New York. And I didn't want to do stand-up. I only wanted to do acting, but like it felt like stand-up was opening doors. So I was like, well, I'll just keep doing it, open those doors. And I would actually get angry that people would ask me to do shows or hire me to do stand-up. And I'm like, but I'm an actor.
Yeah.
Like, no one's seeing that. And then finally, like, light bulb went off, and I was like, stop resisting it, bitch. Like, it's flowing. Like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. So I eventually changed it on my resume from, a comedian that does comedy I changed my resume from an actor who does comedy to a comedian who can act. And that sort of, once I finally gave in, but by that time I'd already been doing it for a long period of time. So I didn't really have someone like that because I was so consumed with the other aspects of the industry that it was sort of like my side gig that eventually became my main gig.
All right. Question number 2, who's a comic who's passed that you would like to see like alive today in the scene, like Sam Kinison or Rodney Dangerfield or something, like someone you looked up to, but you know what I mean?
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a lot of comics that I think, wow, if they were alive today, what would they say about what was going on with the world? I think, I lean towards more older, like female comics of our day, because we just, Joan Rivers was already ahead of her time, so not so much her. and I'm not saying that I have the names at the top of my head, but when I think about comedy and its origins, and even in the 50s and the 60s and the Catskills, and then like the 70s, and like some of those female comedians that never really got the shot to do what female comics are doing today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I would like to see those comics have a chance. Like if they were here today, like they'd be able to talk about what they really wanted to talk about. When again, I think, Joan Rivers was the only one saying controversial stuff at the time. And even then she got sort of silenced. I think by the time she passed, things were a lot different already, but I'm sure there were a lot of female comedians that probably stopped doing comedy or just became writers, you know what I mean, because they weren't getting the love, you know what I mean, that they probably should have.
I mean, one of like my biggest inspirations, actually. I mean, I don't like to get political, so I don't agree with everything she says politically, but I also don't disagree. Right. Rosie O'Donnell, when she first started comedy, she was the funniest comic, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's the type of humor I like, you know what I mean? Just quirky, in your face, just so like, yeah, I think we do definitely need more of that, you know what I mean? So
I mean, yeah, I think, and again, women in comedy have come a long way. I feel like they can still, go further. I think, people love to just, they stay on that. Well, women aren't as funny as men, which is just such bullshit. And I always break it down to there's just less of us. You can't say it. You just see more men, so you automatically assume that men are funnier. It's just not true. So it's such a good time to see so many women doing so well in stand-up and comedy in general, whether it's sketch, improv, or stand-up, that, yeah, it's not that I would want to bring one comedian back. I'd like to bring a generation of female comedians back that have passed, that never had the opportunity.
And now they have the opportunity.
On stage. Yeah. The Belly Room at the Comedy Store was actually created by Mitzi so that women had a safe place to perform where they weren't getting harassed by, male comics and getting all the bullshit that they would get, like, from audience members or specifically male comics. They had a safe place where they could try out their material without, dealing with that bullshit. So she created the Belly Room upstairs at the Comedy Store. And the fact that they had to have their own separate safe space is already enough. Like, are you kidding me? So there's a lot of, a generation of female comics that I wish could come back and experience today's comedy scene.
And then my last question for you, Jodi, and then we'll plug the socials, is if you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, knowing everything you know now, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself what I sort of tell a lot of people now, and myself included, is there's more than enough time, and you haven't aged out of anything. Yeah. You haven't. I think we get so wrapped up with, I have to achieve something at a certain time in my life, or it's never going to happen. And that's just not the case. I am just an example of things coming, not when you think they're going to come, but they still come the way they're supposed to come. And you haven't aged out of anything. I said that in my special. You just haven't. I became a mom much later in life, and in a totally different way than I thought I would. I am an executive producer of 2 shows that are comedy shows. I didn't think that was going to happen. I wanted to be a writer and producer, but that didn't happen until later, after I did there's enough time. Yeah. Enjoy your life. Don't take shit too seriously, and know that you haven't aged out. Wherever you are, whoever's listening to this is probably thinking, have I aged out of this? Have I aged out of that? And you haven't. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Just keep doing what you love doing. And when it doesn't bring you joy, it's also okay to just take a break. You know what I mean? It's okay to take a break and become a real estate agent.
Yeah.
I never got my real estate license, but that's what I would say. Just enjoy your life. Enjoy your life, because, and as you know, at any age, it could just be over like that. So yeah, enjoy it.
I'm so glad you said that, and you didn't say, Jodi, this is Jodi from 2026. How are you? If Keith Reza asks you to do his podcast, say no.
No, not his. But I am going to make a mental mistake.
Where can the folks at home follow and support you at?
You can follow me. It's Jodi Miller Comic on all platforms. Jodi Miller Comedy is my website, but I'm not on there as much. But you can follow me, yes, on all the socials there. Also, watch Comics Unleashed, because now we're at the 11:30 spot on CBS, and I'm incredibly proud about running that show now. It's a totally new, updated, amazing, incredible show that actually showcases so many comics that nobody's heard of.
Oh,
It makes me so happy.
cool. All right, guys, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, and we'll see you guys next week on Reza Rifts.